Hey guys, welcome back to the Level Up podcast. I'm your host, Angie. This is a series where I talk about some of the things that I'm exploring every week, trying to learn and do to be able to advance in my career, in my life, in my mental health, fitness, and creative hobbies. So, today, let me just share a few things that have happened since we last spoke. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, so forgive me if that comes through, but I'm a little bit sick. I'm getting over just regular cold. And I feel like I'm pretty soon about to get my period. So if anyone has bad cramps and things like that, I feel it and it's like making me more fatigued, a little bit irritable. I'm definitely just tired and in pain all over. And going through that this week is just draining because everybody also has a lot more momentum in the workplace. We're thinking it's like brand new year. Let's get started in goal setting. I led a workshop yesterday. Everything has been pretty ramped up in terms of that energy and focus on meeting our goals, setting goals, trying new things, getting organized. And once that's ramped up on one side and my physical needs are, or like physical body is more on the lower side, it's just a tough balance to strike. Um, Today, schedule was thrown off. I couldn't reschedule Ivy's doctor's appointment again, or I didn't feel like I should. So I took her for her wellness exam this morning. Everything was great. We were a little bit concerned because she doesn't really eat at home with us. It's not that she's picky, she just like won't eat. We're a little bit worried about the volume. So they said it based on her weight chart and her growth chart, she looks fine as long as she was, peeing and pooping at home with us, which she is. And then we are good to go. So the next big thing that I need to tackle with the little one, Ivy's 2, is they were saying kind of like go all in with potty training. So that's going to be fun. She says sarcastically, like, I'm in it. I just like don't love the idea of having pee everywhere. So that's kind of what's going on in my life right now. I'm joining you from a bit of a blank wall on the floor because it's just a little clean space. Everything has gotten really chaotic over here because, well, for a number of things. Number one, just life. Like it's hard to stay on top of things. It's not a strong suit of mine. And the other piece is we have some work being done to our storage area. We have some storage, 2 huge storage closets in the balcony, and that's been a game changer for us when we upsized over last summer. Well, they need some work done, so they had to ask us to clear it out so they could examine some of like a leak or some of the damage to the infrastructure. And there is a leak, so we're going to have to figure that out because that's access through Ivy's room. And when they're banging on it and removing the brick structure on the outside, she wakes up, it bothers her. So I need to figure out either she's going to be in this upstairs room or downstairs. And everything has been moved around to try to support their investigation. I think a lot of the work in the area where we are has to be redone, so it doesn't really surprise me. It's just going to be a bit of a painful thing to do because when we got this one last summer, we're like, this one's clear and good to go. Even had 2 investigations, 2 assessments, evaluations. I forgot the actual specific term to what we had, but we had it, of course, had it reviewed so that we can get the approved by the bank and stuff. Okay, so what I want to talk to you today is about the wheel of life. You guys have heard of this. It's just like these different structures. Let me find an example. Here's an example. So you could have like career, health, finances, creativity, family, friendship, growth. That can all be in your wheel of life. And what you do is from the center out, start shading in how far you rank in those areas. So if you, from the very center of the wheel, you feel like very strong in, let's say, in your health, then you can circle that all the way out to the outside part of the circle, or you can shade it into the outside part of the circle. If you felt like a little bit lower, then the shading part would be closer to the center of the wheel. And this is not a new concept, but one thing that I think if people were to do this exercise, it can help you figure out what your goals could shape up to be. Like, I think a lot of people have thought of your goals already as a close of 2023. But if you are wanting to reevaluate those goals, or maybe you haven't set them, or maybe you didn't really want to set goals and you just kind of want to do a life evaluation because it's a fresh new start of the year, this is an activity, and I'll tell you how I've taken it a step further. So this workbook is from Angie Belmar, and I've absolutely loved it. This is still something that you can do on your own. But so I would fill out my wheel of life, and the next thing that she has you do is you would identify your top 3 and your bottom 3. And so this is really the next step in the layer that I think a lot of people stop at. Whenever I've been introduced this wheel or this exercise, I kind of just look at it and evaluate it, and it is what it is. But this workbook takes you through a few layers deeper. And again, you can do this on your own. There's a lot of versions of this that you can print out, or you can just draw it for yourself. So in this example, let's say your top 3 are career, romance, and family. And your bottom 3, well, I'm just looking at this actual example in the workbook, are finances, creativity, and growth. Well, then you write those down and you evaluate, like, okay, is this in balance with what you prioritize in your life? So with the wheel of life, I want to talk you through specifically how you can take it deeper when you're evaluating. And I think these techniques really help ground me in an understanding into something more actionable. So you fill this out, you look at it and like, okay, this is good. Now what do I do? Well, what you can do, there's 10 categories, and if something doesn't really suit you, you can swap it out. I'll give you an example. Like, one of these is contribution. If that's not something like contribution to your community, giving back to your community is not something as important to you, then you could like maybe substitute that for spirituality, for example. So that's one way that you can customize it to yourself. Now, when you look at the top 3 and the bottom 3, when you fill it out, it's like, okay, well, take a second and pause. Does this align with your values? Like, let's say I'm going to look at mine for a second. One of my first ones is growth. Highest rank personally. Like, I believe that I rank highly in terms of personal growth and development. And then I would take a second and see, does that align with my values? In this case, it does. Now, then we also look at where I ranked the lowest. And just to share, one where I ranked the lowest is contribution. That's like giving back time to your community, giving back time or money to your community to causes that are important to you. And since that's the lowest ranked of mine, and that can be okay, I would take a moment and think, is that aligned with my values? Do I feel okay? Does it sit right with me that contribution is on the lower bottom 3 of my 10? And then you just assess, well, what can you do? So you got your top 3 and your bottom 3. So then even further, once you just look at and take a second to think about if this is in alignment with your values, what you can then do is just 3 bullet points. Talk about some areas that you're thriving in, and then 3 more bullet points. What are some areas that you could do better in? And then 3 more, what are some things that you would do starting right now to change? I feel like if you are overwhelmed with all of the possible routines, habits, resolutions to start, or maybe resolutions aren't your thing, then this is an interesting activity, 1, for self-reflection, 2, just to pause and evaluate and see maybe where there could be an opportunity. And then the other takeaway too is, maybe this is in complete alignment with your values. Your top 3 are where you would want them to be, and your bottom 3, just they make sense against the other priorities. I'll just give another shout out to Angie Belmar, who built this workbook, my dream life blueprint, and I think it was so fun. I have not completed it. It's something that I've already got a few friends onto, just like the idea of having something you can write in. I got a little bit overwhelmed with the idea of even taking a week to fill the whole thing out, but whenever I needed a bit of a boost, I would open this up, find an activity. It's filled with activities like this. You can do it all in one shot in a few days, but for me, I'm kind of savoring it and trying to do a little bit at a time. Okay, but I haven't touched it in a little while, and I wanted to revisit it with you guys at the start of this year. That's the main thing that I wanted to discuss today, but another thing that I wanted to touch on is the influx of like these lists, these favorites that are coming through. There's like top 20, top 30 Amazon favorites, top 10 things that from 2023, top 30 things from 2023. Year end and the start of the new year is when I've noticed like a lot of that coming into my feed and being recommended to me. And as somebody who I think is pretty easily influenced, like I even bought this. I mean, come on, I buy a shit ton of stuff that I don't need. However, I think maybe a reminder to myself and to you, like finding healthy ways to turn off or steer clear from some of those summarized lists if you are trying to do a low buy, if you just feel like you have too much stuff. And there's actually communities right now that are doing things called de-influencing or they're calling it defluencing or de-influencing, which is just talking about how to be a conscious consumer, use less, purchase less. And when it comes from reduce, reuse, recycle, they're really talking more about the reduce part of that and saying like all of these things that psychologically are meant to have you buy more and into the craze and not wanting to have FOMO about something. I'm reminded now about this huge craze. I was seeing some wild TikToks of people running into a Target to get the limited edition Stanley. There's a Stanley Cup, and I think they marketed it by saying, like, we're not going to produce more of this. It is a limited color, a limited finish, and it's for Valentine's Day. And then we had people who were waiting at the door to get those either because they're collectors or resellers. So a lot of that hype and that consumer mindset is really driven by social media. And I fall victim to it all the time. I even contribute to it by even sharing something like this. I have that viral dress video from TikTok with the bouncy dress. Like, I am both a perpetrator and a victim of consumerism and virality. And just trying to be thoughtful about how I participate in that moving forward. And also a friendly reminder, it's January. Everybody is cleaning, they're like dusting, getting rid of things, donating stuff. So it's definitely a time to maybe turn your attention away from some of those lists and deal with the shit and the stuff that you already have piled up in your home. Okay, so that was my friendly reminder to you to do some self-reflection, see where you're at. And the second one is to be careful out there with all of those flashing alarms and sales and compiled lists, and let's make an effort to be a bit thoughtful and a little bit more organized. Let's declutter something this week. Declutter 10 items, play the minimalism game. I think that's where you accrue by decluttering a new thing every day. So you'll start out with one day, the next day you declutter 2, next day you declutter 3, and then it compounds. So you would have ended up decluttering a whole bunch of stuff. A few life updates in terms of my goals overall. One thing that I did was get for my birthday this huge 1-gallon jug of water. And when people see it, I think it's just like comical how big it is. I haven't weighed it recently, but I remember doing it once and was, I don't know, like 7 pounds or something. I'll do it again. Yeah, so that's not so much as to encourage me to drink more, but more so to keep up with how much I already drink. I drink a ton of water, and at least this will help me keep track of my intake, but also make it a little bit more convenient. Another thing that I've done is cleared off a table. And so that's now my dedicated puzzle table. I have one sitting out there right now where I wasn't so sure that I would have a dedicated surface that wouldn't be in the way, interfered by little grabby hands. I decided to take over my main desk station, which I only work from twice. I work from home twice a week. And when I do work from home, I've found that I prefer to just take my laptop around to the kitchen table anyway. So that's been really good. And another thing that I did was I watched a video reviewing all of the top color pencils, and I probably watched two and then read an article, and I landed up on buying like an affordable prosumer grade level of color pencils, and now I'm set. And Ivy started trying to grab at them, and I was like being a bully and said, no, these are mine, you use your Crayolas, little girl. But I ended up letting her use them, of course, at that time until I put them away so that that wouldn't happen again. So those are some updates. I'm hoping going into next week that when I'm hoping I'm going to have a little bit more energy. I feel like I'll be able to read more. I have book club next week. And then this weekend, I'm attending a really fun event. It's this YouTube dance fitness instructor who happens to work out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and she is doing a tour. And so she'll be going to teach a class in Nashville. I'm a little bit surprised that she doesn't come to Nashville more, but I guess she's built out her community. She's got her own studio, and that's where she sets up her live streams, and everything's set for her over there. So her life is there. She's got 5 kids, and she looks great for it. That's crazy. So I got tickets to go take her class, and it's going to be like a hit fitness dancey kind of class, and that'll be on Sunday evening. So I'm looking forward to healing up over these next few days to be able to attend that. And then after that, I've got book club, and then I also just finished a book called I Have a Few Questions for You. The setup is interesting. It's about somebody who went to a private boarding high school, and then they're examining and starting to open up a cold case of someone who had passed away, and they had identified the killer, and they're trying to see if that was the wrong person. And so how do you unpack, like, it's a 20-year-old case. So the whole time you're hearing this mostly through the lens of someone who used to go to that school, who was roommates with the girl who had passed away, and she is a famous podcaster, so she's coming back to the school campus to teach a class on podcasting, and she's asking her students to come up with an idea of what to pursue and what to make their topics about, and one of the students wants to pursue this case. And so how is all of this intertwined? And then they ultimately, as you might be able to predict, unpack so much detail that the case comes back up into question, and they'll see if they can identify the real killer. So I love that. I mean, it sounds like that could really happen with how popular true crime is. Yeah, like I recommend it. It was a good and easy read for sure. So that's kind of everything that's been going on since we last spoke. And so I hope that you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you for listening. Until then, let's level up. All right, bye.